The morning sun was shining bright on Saturday when Samuel Washington woke up in his small house. He had been planning this day for many months. Today was the day he would finally buy his first luxury car. Samuel was 72 years old, and his gray hair was neatly combed. He put on his best clothes, which were still old and worn out, but they were clean and pressed. Samuel looked at himself in the mirror. His brown jacket had some small holes, and his pants were faded from many years of washing. His shoes were old but polished. He did not look like a rich man, but Samuel did not care about fancy clothes. He had learned from his late wife that what matters is inside a person's heart, not what they wear. After eating a simple breakfast of toast and coffee, Samuel walked to his old wooden desk. He opened the drawer and took out a small notebook where he wrote down all his savings. For 5 long years, he had saved every penny he could. He worked extra hours, ate simple meals, and never spent money on things he did not need. The notebook showed he had saved $45,000. Samuel's hands shook a little as he held the notebook, not because he was scared, but because he was excited. This money meant freedom to him. After his heart surgery 3 months ago, his doctor told him he needed to stop walking long distances. The doctor said Samuel needed a car to get around easily. Samuel had always used the bus or walked everywhere, but now he needed something better. He called his grandson Marcus to pick him up. Young Marcus was 25 years old and worked at a computer company. He was the only family member who knew about Samuel's secret savings. When Marcus arrived in his small car, he was surprised to see his grandfather dressed up. "Grandpa, are you really sure about this?" Marcus asked as they drove toward the Mercedes dealership. "That's a lot of money for a car." Samuel smiled and patted his grandson's shoulder. "Son, I have been dreaming about this for so long. I want to drive myself to see you and your sister. I want to go to the store without waiting for the bus. I am getting old, and this might be my last chance to do something special for myself." The Mercedes dealership was in the rich part of town. It was a huge building made of glass and steel. Expensive cars were parked outside, shining in the sunlight. Samuel had never been inside such a fancy place before. As they got closer, Samuel could see people in expensive suits walking around looking at cars. "Do you want me to come in with you, Grandpa?" Marcus asked. Samuel shook his head. "No, son, this is something I need to do by myself. I have been planning what to say for weeks. I will be fine." Marcus dropped his grandfather off at the front door. "Call me when you're done, Grandpa. I'm proud of you." Samuel took a deep breath and walked slowly toward the glass doors. The doors opened by themselves, which surprised him a little. He had never seen automatic doors like these before. As he stepped inside, Samuel felt like he was entering a different world. The showroom was enormous and bright. The floors were made of shiny marble that reflected the lights above. Expensive cars were placed perfectly around the room, each one cleaner and more beautiful than the last. The walls were painted white, and there were comfortable leather chairs where customers could sit and talk. In the center of the showroom was the car Samuel had been dreaming about. It was a silver Mercedes sedan, exactly like the one he had seen in magazines. The car was so shiny that Samuel could see his reflection in it. He walked toward it slowly, his heart beating fast with excitement. Samuel had spent many nights at the public library, reading about this car on the computer. His grandson had helped him learn how to use the internet to research different models. Samuel knew everything about this car: how many miles it could drive on 1 tank of gas, what safety features it had, and how comfortable the seats were. As Samuel got closer to the silver car, he noticed other people in the showroom. There was a young couple looking at a red sports car. The woman was wearing a diamond necklace, and the man had an expensive watch. A salesman in a perfect suit was showing them all the car's features, opening doors and explaining everything with a big smile. Near the back of the showroom, an older gentleman in a business suit was talking to another salesman about a black, luxury car. The customer was asking questions, and the salesman was answering each one carefully and politely. Everyone seemed to be getting good service. Samuel reached the silver car and gently placed his hand on the hood. The metal was cool and smooth. He had dreamed of this moment for so long. He walked around the car slowly, looking at every detail. The wheels were perfect, the windows were spotless, and the inside looked like a living room with leather seats and a fancy dashboard. From across the showroom, a young salesman named Marcus noticed Samuel. This Marcus was very different from Samuel's grandson. He was 32 years old, tall and handsome. He wore an expensive gray suit, shiny black shoes, and a gold watch. His hair was perfectly styled, and he always looked like he was ready for a photo. Marcus had been working at this dealership for 2 years. He was good at his job and sold more cars than most other salespeople. He made a lot of money from commissions, which is extra money salespeople get when they sell expensive cars. Marcus was proud of being the top seller, and he liked the respect he got from his boss and coworkers. But Marcus had one big problem. He thought he could tell how much money people had just by looking at their clothes and appearance. When he saw Samuel in his old brown jacket and worn-out shoes, walking slowly like an old man, Marcus rolled his eyes. "Oh no," Marcus whispered to his coworker Jennifer, who was sitting at a nearby desk. "Here comes another old guy who just wants to look at cars he can't afford. This is going to waste my whole afternoon." Jennifer looked at Samuel and then back at Marcus. "Maybe you should go talk to him. He might be a real customer." Marcus laughed. Quietly, "Look at his clothes, Jennifer. Look at how he's walking around that car like he's never seen one before. He probably doesn't even have a credit card. I bet he just came in here to get out of the cold." Samuel continued walking around the silver Mercedes, unaware that Marcus was watching him and making judgments. Samuel was thinking about all the places he would drive. He would visit his grandchildren more often. He would go to the grocery store without carrying heavy bags on the bus. He would drive to church on Sundays instead of asking neighbors for rides. The old man's eyes were full of hope and excitement. This car represented independence and dignity to him. After working hard his whole life, Samuel felt he deserved something nice. He had raised 3 children by himself after his wife died, worked 2 jobs to pay for their education, and never complained about the hard times. Samuel looked around the showroom, hoping someone would come to help him. He had practiced what he would say to the salesperson. He was ready to discuss prices, ask about features, and even pay cash if needed. He had his bank statements in his jacket pocket, showing he had enough money. But Marcus stayed at his desk, playing with his phone and ignoring Samuel completely. Other salespeople were busy with their well-dressed customers, giving them attention and answering all their questions. Samuel stood alone next to his dream car, waiting patiently for someone to notice him. The old man did not know that his appearance had already caused one person to judge him unfairly. Samuel just knew he had money. He wanted to buy a car, and he hoped someone would treat him with kindness and respect. He had no idea that the next few minutes would change everything. Samuel waited patiently next to the silver Mercedes for almost 20 minutes. He watched other customers getting help from friendly salespeople. A young woman in an expensive dress was test driving a white car. An older man in a business suit was signing papers at a desk. Everyone seemed to be getting the attention they needed except Samuel. The old man checked his watch. It was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He'd been so excited to come here today, and now he was starting to feel invisible. Samuel cleared his throat softly and looked around the showroom again. Maybe someone would notice him now. Marcus was still sitting at his desk, typing on his computer and checking his phone. He had sold 2 cars already this week, and his boss had praised him for being such a good salesman. Marcus felt confident and successful. He looked up and saw Samuel, still standing by the Mercedes, touching the car gently with his old hands. This old guy is still here, Marcus thought to himself. He's probably just pretending he can buy this car. I bet he's homeless or something. These old people come in here all the time just to waste our time. Samuel finally decided to approach someone for help. He had been raised to be polite and respectful, so he walked slowly toward Marcus's desk. Samuel's heart was beating fast because he was nervous, but he was also excited to finally talk about his dream car. "Excuse me, sir," Samuel said in a quiet, polite voice. He stood in front of Marcus's desk with his old hat in his hands. "I am very interested in that silver Mercedes sedan over there. Could you please help me learn more about it?" Marcus looked up from his computer with annoyance on his face. He had been hoping Samuel would just leave, but now the old man was bothering him directly. Marcus sighed loudly and rolled his eyes. "Look, old man," Marcus said in a rude voice that was loud enough for other people to hear, "that car over there costs $43,000. Do you even understand how much money that is?" Samuel's face turned a little red from embarrassment, but he kept his dignity. He had dealt with rude people before in his life. "Yes, sir. I understand the price. I have been saving money for this car for a very long time. I am ready to buy it today." Marcus laughed in a mean way. "Saving money? What did you do, collect bottles and cans?" He spoke even louder now, and other customers in the showroom started to look over at them. "Listen, Grandpa, maybe you should go to the used car lot down the street. They have cars that might be more in your budget, like old Hondas or Toyotas, that are 15 years old." Samuel felt hurt by these words, but he tried to stay calm. He reached into his jacket pocket to get his bank papers. "Sir, I really do have the money. I can show you my bank statements if you would like to see them." "Bank statements?" Marcus said with another cruel laugh. "What bank? Do you mean the piggy bank in your bedroom?" Some customers nearby started to whisper to each other. A few people looked uncomfortable watching this conversation, but others seemed curious about what would happen next. Marcus stood up from his desk to make himself look more important and powerful. He was much taller than Samuel, and he used his height to make the old man feel small. "Listen carefully, old-timer. I don't have time for games today. I have real customers to help, people who actually have money to spend on luxury cars." Samuel's hands started to shake, not from old age, but from the pain he felt inside. He had experienced discrimination before when he was younger, especially during the 1960s and 1970s when things were different in America. But he thought those days were over. He thought people had learned to treat each other better. "I am not playing games, sir," Samuel said softly. His voice was so quiet that people had to lean in to hear him. "I just want to buy a car so I can drive to see my grandchildren. My doctor says I need a car because walking long distances is hard for my heart now." Marcus shook his head and made a disgusted face. "Your grandchildren? Do they even know you're here trying to buy a car you can't afford? You're probably embarrassing your whole family right now." These words hit Samuel like a punch in the stomach. His grandchildren were the most important thing in his life. He had worked 2 jobs for years to help pay for their education. He had never missed a birthday or graduation. The idea that he might embarrass them made him feel terrible. "Maybe you don't even have a valid driver's license." Marcus continued his attack. "When was the last time you actually drove a car? These Mercedes are complicated machines with modern technology. They're not for people who are used to riding the bus everywhere." Samuel's eyes started to fill with tears, but he tried hard not to cry in front of all these people. He had always been a proud man who kept his emotions private, but Marcus's words were so cruel and unfair that Samuel couldn't help feeling deeply hurt. A security guard named James had been watching this whole conversation from across the showroom. James was a 58-year-old black man who had worked in security for many years. He understood exactly what was happening to Samuel because he had experienced similar treatment in his own life. James felt angry watching Marcus treat Samuel so badly. The security guard wanted to step in and defend Samuel, but company rules said he could not interfere with salespeople talking to customers. All James could do was watch and remember everything he saw and heard. "Look," Marcus said, pointing toward the door. "I think it would be best if you left now. You're making other customers uncomfortable and I have important work to do. If you really want a car, go to one of those buy here, pay here lots where they sell cars to people with bad credit." Samuel looked around the showroom and saw that many people were staring at him. Some looked sorry for him, but others seemed to agree with Marcus. Samuel felt more alone and embarrassed than he had felt in many years. "I have good credit," Samuel whispered, but his voice was so quiet that hardly anyone could hear him. "I pay all my bills on time. I have never been late with any payment in my whole life." Marcus picked up some papers from his desk and pretended to be very busy. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. You're disrupting our business, and we serve serious customers only." Samuel stood there for a moment, holding his old hat in his trembling hands. He looked one more time at the silver Mercedes that he had dreamed about for so long. The car seemed farther away now, like it was impossible to reach. "I just wanted to buy a car," Samuel said to himself, so quietly that only James the security guard could hear him. Samuel slowly turned around and started walking toward the door. His shoulders were bent and he looked much older than when he had first walked into the dealership. Every step felt heavy and difficult. Marcus watched Samuel leave and felt satisfied with himself. "Another time waster gone," he thought. "Now, I can focus on real customers who actually have money." But Marcus had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. He had no idea who Samuel Washington really was, or how much money the old man actually had. Marcus was about to learn a lesson that would change his life forever. As Samuel reached the door, he stopped and looked back one more time at the Mercedes dealership. He made a decision that would surprise everyone. Samuel stopped at the glass doors of the Mercedes dealership. He took a deep breath and thought about what had just happened. The cruel words from Marcus still hurt his heart. But Samuel was not the kind of man who gave up easily. He had faced harder challenges in his life, and he had always found a way to overcome them. What Marcus did not know was that Samuel Washington was not just any ordinary retired janitor. Samuel had a secret that would shock everyone in that dealership. For the past 30 years, Samuel had been quietly building a small business empire that had made him very wealthy. After Samuel's wife died 20 years ago, he had been very sad and lonely. To keep himself busy, he decided to buy a small house that needed repairs. Samuel was good with his hands, so he fixed the house by himself during weekends and evenings. After he finished fixing it, he rented it to a nice family. Samuel liked this work, so he bought another old house and fixed that one too. Then he bought another house and another one. Over the years, Samuel had bought and fixed 23 rental houses all around the city. Every month, these houses brought him rental money from the families who lived in them. Samuel was very smart with money. He never spent more than he needed to spend. He lived in the same small house where he and his wife had been happy together. He drove an old pickup truck that still worked fine. He wore simple clothes and ate simple food, but every month Samuel saved most of the rental money he received. Samuel also had another secret. He was very good at picking stocks to invest in. His grandson Marcus had taught him how to use the computer at the library to research different companies. Samuel studied which companies were doing well and he bought their stocks with his extra money. Over the years, Samuel's investments grew bigger and bigger. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon had made Samuel's money grow into a fortune. That morning before coming to the dealership, Samuel had checked his investment account on his grandson's computer. His stocks were worth $2.8 million. Samuel also owned his rental houses, which were worth another $1.2 million. This meant that Samuel Washington, the man in old clothes who had just been humiliated by Marcus, was actually worth more than $4 million. But Samuel never told anyone about his wealth except his grandson. Samuel's late wife had always taught him that money should not change who you are as a person. She said that rich people who show off their money often become proud and mean. Samuel wanted to stay humble and kind, just like he had always been. Samuel also used his money to help other people, but he did it secretly. Every year, Samuel gave $50,000 to help poor children go to college. He paid for new books at the public library where he had learned to use computers. He bought winter coats for homeless people and left them at the shelter without telling anyone his name. Just last month, Samuel had donated $100,000 to build a new playground at the elementary school where he used to work as a janitor. The children at that school would never know that the quiet old man who used to clean their classrooms had given them this wonderful gift. As Samuel stood at the dealership door, his phone started ringing. He looked at the screen and saw it was his lawyer, Mr. Thompson. Samuel stepped outside to answer the call. "Hello, Mr. Washington," said the lawyer. "I have some papers ready for you to sign on Monday. Are you still planning to buy that apartment, building on Oak Street?" "Yes," Samuel said quietly. "I looked at the building yesterday and I think it will be a good investment. The price is $200,000, right?" "That's correct," Mr. Thompson replied. "I'll have the money transfer ready for Monday morning. This will be your 24th rental property. You're building quite an impressive portfolio." Samuel talked with his lawyer for 5 more minutes about the real estate purchase. He spoke about transferring large amounts of money like other people talk about buying groceries. To Samuel, buying a building worth $200,000 was just another normal business decision. James, the security guard, had followed Samuel outside because he was worried about the old man. James had seen how upset Samuel looked after Marcus treated him so badly. As a security guard, James felt responsible for making sure all visitors to the dealership were safe and comfortable. James stood near the door and could not help but overhear Samuel's phone conversation. When James heard Samuel talking about transferring $200,000 and buying apartment buildings, James's eyes opened wide with surprise. This old man is rich, James thought to himself. Really, really rich. And that stupid salesman, Marcus, just treated him like garbage. James had worked in security for 15 years and he had learned to read people very well. He could tell when someone was lying or pretending. But Samuel's phone conversation sounded completely real and natural. Samuel was not bragging or trying to impress anyone. He was just conducting normal business with his lawyer. After Samuel finished his phone call, he looked at James with a sad smile. "That young man in there thinks I cannot afford to buy a car," Samuel said softly. "He thinks I am just a poor old man who is wasting his time." James felt angry about what had happened to Samuel. "Sir, what that salesman did to you was wrong. Very wrong. You deserve to be treated with respect, no matter what you look like or how much money you have." Samuel nodded his head. "You are a good man," he told James. "I can see that you understand what is right and what is wrong." "Sir," James said carefully, "I couldn't help but hear your phone conversation. Are you really planning to buy an apartment building?" Samuel smiled for the first time since entering the dealership. "Yes, I am. I have been buying and fixing rental properties for many years. It started as a hobby after my wife died, but it became a successful business." James shook his head in amazement. "And that salesman Marcus thinks you can't afford a car." Marcus looked at my old clothes and decided I was poor, Samuel explained. "He never asked me any questions about what I do or what I can afford. He just made up his mind based on how I look." Samuel looked back at the dealership through the glass doors. He could see Marcus sitting at his desk, probably feeling proud of himself for getting rid of what he thought was a problem customer. "You know what?" Samuel said to James with a determined look in his eyes. "I think it's time for Marcus to learn an important lesson about judging people." Samuel straightened his shoulders and walked back toward the dealership doors. James watched him go, knowing that things were about to become very interesting inside that showroom. Samuel had made a decision. He was going to buy his car today, but not in the way anyone expected. Marcus was about to discover that the poor, old man he had just insulted was actually one of the wealthiest customers who had ever walked into that dealership. Samuel walked back into the Mercedes dealership with a new sense of purpose. His shoulders were straight, and his eyes showed determination instead of sadness. James, the security guard, followed him inside, curious to see what would happen next. Samuel knew exactly what he needed to do. Instead of going back to Marcus, Samuel walked directly to the customer service desk at the front of the showroom. Behind the desk sat a young woman named Sarah, who handled customer complaints and special requests. Sarah had been watching the earlier scene between Samuel and Marcus, and she felt uncomfortable about how the old man had been treated. "Good afternoon, sir," Sarah said with a genuine smile. "How can I help you today?" Samuel spoke in a calm, clear voice. "I would like to speak with the manager of this dealership, please. I have experienced some very poor customer service today, and I think the manager should know about it." Sarah could see that Samuel was serious and polite. She had been trained to handle customer complaints professionally. "Of course, sir. Let me call Mr. Peterson right away. He is our general manager." Within 3 minutes, a tall man in his 50s walked over to Samuel. Robert Peterson had been managing this Mercedes dealership for 12 years. He was known for treating customers fairly and running an honest business. Mr. Peterson believed that every person who walked through his doors deserved respect and excellent service. "Good afternoon," Mr. Peterson said, extending his hand to Samuel. "I'm Robert Peterson, the general manager. I understand you wanted to speak with me about a service issue." Samuel shook Mr. Peterson's hand firmly. "Yes, sir. My name is Samuel Washington. I came here today ready to purchase a vehicle, but I was treated very poorly by one of your salespeople." Mr. Peterson's face became serious. He had built his reputation on excellent customer service, and he took any complaint very seriously. "Mr. Washington, I'm sorry to hear that. Would you please tell me exactly what happened?" Samuel explained the entire situation calmly and clearly. He told Mr. Peterson about how Marcus had ignored him for 20 minutes, then insulted him loudly, in front of other customers. Samuel repeated the cruel words Marcus had used, including the comments about collecting bottles and cans, and about embarrassing his grandchildren. As Samuel spoke, Mr. Peterson's expression grew more and more concerned. He had zero tolerance for discrimination in his dealership. Over the years, Mr. Peterson had fired several employees for treating customers unfairly based on their race, age, or appearance. "Mr. Washington," Mr. Peterson said when Samuel finished his story, "what you have described is completely unacceptable. This kind of behavior goes against everything we stand for as a business. I sincerely apologize for the treatment you received." Samuel nodded appreciatively. "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I can see that you are a professional man who understands how customers should be treated." Mr. Peterson looked across the showroom and saw Marcus sitting at his desk, typing on his computer and looking satisfied with himself. Mr. Peterson's jaw tightened with anger. Marcus had no idea that his behavior was about to cost him dearly. "Mr. Washington," Mr. Peterson said, "would you be willing to give us another chance? I would be personally honored to help you find the right vehicle for your needs." Samuel smiled slightly. "Actually, Mr. Peterson, I already know exactly which car I want. I have been researching it for months. It's that silver Mercedes sedan in the center of your showroom." Mr. Peterson looked surprised. Most customers needed time to compare different models and features, but Samuel had clearly done his homework. "That's an excellent choice, sir. May I ask what attracted you to that particular model?" "I researched the safety ratings, the reliability record, and the comfort features," Samuel explained. "At my age, safety and comfort are very important. I also read that this model holds its value well over time." Mr. Peterson was impressed by Samuel's knowledge. "You're absolutely right about all of those points. That model is one of our most popular vehicles. Shall we go take a closer look at it?" As they walked toward the silver Mercedes, Mr. Peterson called out to Marcus. "Marcus, could you please come over here? I'd like you to meet Mr. Washington." Marcus looked up from his desk with annoyance. He recognized Samuel immediately and rolled his eyes. Marcus walked over slowly, clearly not wanting to deal with the old man again. "Marcus," Mr. Peterson said in a firm voice, "Mr. Washington has just told me about his experience with you today. I'd like you to explain your side of what happened." Marcus shrugged his shoulders carelessly. "Look, Mr. Peterson, I was just being realistic. This gentleman was clearly not a serious buyer. I was trying to save everyone's time by being honest about what he could and couldn't afford." Mr. Peterson's face darkened with anger. "Marcus, did you ask Mr. Washington about his budget or financing options before making these assumptions?" "Well, no, but," Marcus started to say. "Did you ask him what kind of car he was looking for, or what his needs were?" Mr. Peterson interrupted. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "No, but you can tell just by looking—" "Stop right there," Mr. Peterson said sharply. "You judged a customer based on his appearance without asking a single professional question. That is not how we do business here." Samuel watched this conversation quietly. He could see that Mr. Peterson was genuinely upset about Marcus's behavior. Samuel decided it was time to reveal some important information. "Mr. Peterson," Samuel said calmly, "I should mention that I'm not just looking to buy one car today. I'm planning to purchase vehicles for my 3 grandchildren who are graduating from college this spring. I was hoping to buy 4 cars total from the same dealership." Mr. Peterson's eyes widened with surprise. 4 Mercedes vehicles would represent a sale worth approximately $170,000. This would be one of the largest single transactions in the dealership's recent history. Marcus's face went completely pale. He began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. His commission from a sale that large would have been enormous, possibly $15,000 to $20,000. That money could have changed Marcus's financial situation significantly. 4 cars? Mr. Peterson asked, wanting to make sure he had heard correctly. Yes, Samuel continued. And I should also mention that I'm on the board of directors for the City Youth Foundation. We've been looking for a dealership to partner with for our scholarship program. We typically purchase 12 vehicles each year to give to deserving students who need transportation to get to work and school. Mr. Peterson almost couldn't believe what he was hearing. 12 additional vehicles per year would mean ongoing business worth several $100,000 annually. Marcus had not just lost one potential sale. He had potentially cost the dealership a major corporate partnership. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. He had thrown away the biggest opportunity of his career because he judged someone by their appearance. The total business Samuel represented could be worth over $500,000. Mr. Washington, Mr. Peterson said respectfully, I cannot express how sorry I am about this situation. Marcus's behavior was inexcusable, and I want to make this right. Samuel nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate your professionalism, Mr. Peterson. However, I think this situation shows a serious problem with how some of your employees view certain customers. Mr. Peterson looked directly at Marcus, who was now sweating nervously. Marcus, please return to my office immediately. We need to have a very serious discussion about your future with this company. Marcus realized that his job was probably over. His arrogance and prejudice had cost him everything. As he walked toward Mr. Peterson's office, Marcus finally understood the expensive lesson he was about to learn. Marcus walked slowly toward Mr. Peterson's office, his legs feeling weak and his heart pounding fast. He could not believe what had just happened. The old man he had insulted and dismissed was actually planning to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at the dealership. Marcus realized that his prejudice and arrogance had cost him the biggest sale of his entire career. Meanwhile, Mr. Peterson turned back to Samuel with sincere respect in his eyes. Mr. Washington, I want to personally handle your car purchases today. Let me introduce you to Jennifer Martinez, one of our most experienced and professional salespeople. She will work with both of us to make sure you receive the excellent service you deserve. Jennifer had been watching the entire situation unfold from her desk. She was a 40-year-old woman who had been selling cars for 15 years. Jennifer had always treated every customer with equal respect, regardless of how they looked or dressed. She approached Samuel with a warm, genuine smile. Mr. Washington, it's an honor to meet you, Jennifer said, shaking Samuel's hand. I apologize for the treatment you received earlier. That behavior does not represent who we are as a company. Samuel smiled back at Jennifer. Thank you, young lady. I can see that you are a professional person who understands good customer service. Over the next 2 hours, Jennifer and Mr. Peterson gave Samuel the VIP treatment he should have received from the beginning. They showed him every feature of the silver Mercedes sedan, answered all his questions, and discussed financing options. Samuel listened carefully and asked intelligent questions that showed how much research he had done. I would like to pay cash for my car, Samuel said simply, and I would also like to place orders for 3 additional vehicles for my grandchildren. Jennifer's eyes lit up with excitement. That's wonderful, Mr. Washington. What models are you thinking about for them? Samuel pulled out a small notebook from his jacket pocket. My grandson Marcus is graduating from medical school. He would like a black sedan like this one. My granddaughter Lisa is finishing her law degree, and she wants a white SUV for her family. My youngest granddaughter Sarah is graduating from college, and she would like a red convertible. As Samuel described each car, Jennifer wrote down all the details. Mr. Peterson calculated the total cost in his head. 4 luxury Mercedes vehicles would cost approximately $175,000. This would be the largest single sale the dealership had made all year. While Samuel worked with Jennifer, Mr. Peterson went to his office to deal with Marcus. He found Marcus sitting in a chair, looking pale and worried. Marcus knew he was in serious trouble, but he still did not fully understand how much his behavior had cost him. "Marcus," Mr. Peterson said sternly, "in 12 years of managing this dealership, I have never been more disappointed in an employee's behavior. What you did today was not just unprofessional, it was discriminatory and cruel." Marcus tried to defend himself. "Mr. Peterson, I was just trying to qualify the customer. I thought I was being efficient with my time." "Efficient?" Mr. Peterson's voice rose with anger. "You insulted a man who was planning to spend almost $200,000 with us. You made assumptions based on his appearance without asking a single qualifying question. That is not efficiency. That is prejudice." Marcus finally began to understand the full scope of his mistake. $200,000? He whispered. "Yes," Mr. Peterson continued. "And that's not even including the corporate partnership he mentioned. Mr. Washington sits on the board of a foundation that buys 12 cars every year for their scholarship program. You potentially cost us over $500,000 in business." Marcus felt sick to his stomach. His commission on Samuel's purchases alone would have been around $15,000. More money than Marcus usually made in 3 months. The ongoing corporate business could have provided steady income for years. "Mr. Peterson, I can apologize to him," Marcus said desperately. "I can make this right." "No, Marcus, you cannot make this right," Mr. Peterson replied firmly. "The damage is done. But more importantly, this incident shows me that you do not share our company values. We believe in treating all people with dignity and respect. You clearly do not understand this basic principle." Mr. Peterson opened Marcus's personnel file on his desk. "This is not your first complaint about poor customer service. Last year, a Hispanic family complained that you ignored them for 30 minutes. 6 months ago, a young couple said you were rude because they were wearing casual clothes." Marcus realized that his pattern of judging customers was catching up with him. He had always thought he was smart for focusing on the customers who looked wealthy, but now he saw how wrong he had been. "Marcus," Mr. Peterson said with finality, "your employment with this dealership is terminated immediately. Clean out your desk and turn in your company keys. Security will escort you out." Marcus felt his whole world crashing down. He had lost his job, his income, and his reputation in the car sales industry. Word would spread quickly about why he was fired, making it very difficult for him to find another sales position. Back in the showroom, Samuel was completing the paperwork for his purchases. He had written a check for $45,000 for his silver sedan and placed orders for the 3 cars his grandchildren wanted. Samuel also provided contact information for the Youth Foundation so they could discuss the corporate partnership. "Mr. Washington," Jennifer said with admiration, "it has been a pleasure working with you today. Your grandchildren are very lucky to have such a generous grandfather." Samuel smiled warmly. "I worked hard my whole life so I could provide for my family. These cars represent freedom and opportunity for them." As Samuel prepared to leave, James, the security guard, approached him. "Sir, I want you to know that what happened to you today was wrong. I'm glad Mr. Peterson handled it properly." "Thank you, James," Samuel replied. "You are a good man with a kind heart. I could see that you understood what was happening." Mr. Peterson walked Samuel to his new car. "Mr. Washington, I have arranged for your Mercedes to be detailed and ready for pickup tomorrow morning. And please know that you will always receive VIP treatment when you visit our dealership." Samuel shook Mr. Peterson's hand. "You have restored my faith in good customer service. I will tell my friends and family about how well you treated me." As Samuel called his grandson to pick him up, he reflected on the day's events. He felt proud that he had stood up for himself with dignity and grace. Samuel had not sought revenge against Marcus. He had simply told the truth about what happened. Marcus, meanwhile, was clearing out his desk while security watched. Other employees whispered about what had happened. Marcus had learned a painful but valuable lesson about the cost of prejudice and the importance of treating all people with respect. The story of Samuel Washington quickly spread throughout the community and on social media. People praised Samuel's grace under pressure and Mr. Peterson's swift action against discrimination. The dealership actually gained many new customers who wanted to support a business that stood up for what was right. Samuel drove his new Mercedes for many happy years, visiting his grandchildren and supporting his charitable work. He never forgot the lesson from that day, that true wealth comes not from money, but from how we treat other people with kindness and respect.